Really?
Hi, my name is Joke Amusan and I'm a textile artist. My work is all about empowering Black women and sharing stories of the Black women, and for me that's something that's always been really important growing up. I felt like my voice didn't really matter, and whenever I did speak no one really wanted to listen, and I think even when it comes to representation I didn't really have much of that growing up. So yeah, my art's kind of always been like something that was really empowering to me, and I hope it's something that's also empowering to Black women.
So this is my most current piece that I've been working on, and it's some words that my friend said. So it's going to say, "You are grounded, your roots are deep, you won't fall over."
My process when it comes to creating my artworks from start to finish varies quite a lot. So normally I'm in my studio by myself and I'm thinking of like what I could create next, and I just allow my thoughts to freely flow. Sometimes I'm listening to a podcast, other times I'm just reflecting on words that my friends have said as well. So I have a lot of amazing Black female friends in my life, or even just family members. And even when it comes to my most recent artwork, I was looking through my notes because I tend to always write down if someone says something that really spoke to me. And then I was flicking through all my notes, looking, couldn't find anything. And then I found a note from 2019 that one of my friends spoke over me, like this really powerful statement. And that's what my most recent artwork is going to be about. It's going to be her words stitched into my art. So that's something that's really special to me. When she said those words to me, I think I was just feeling really low and feeling really down. But I didn't realize the power of those words, or even what she meant, to be honest, in that moment. And the idea behind this piece is to not only have the words, but also to kind of allow the fabric to freely flow. So I kind of just bunch it up a bit, and then where it naturally folds, that's where I'm gonna put a pin. And the idea is probably just to make it look more like a tree trunk once it's done. And normally my work is, let me just think of it. Normally my work is always hung up on a wall and it's something you have to look up at. But for this one, I wanted to kind of flow into the floor as well, showing that connection to the ground. When people see my work, I want them to see that there is so much power in words, and that's something that I think people don't often think about. Words can be used to tear someone down or to bring them up, and for me, I felt like words were always used to tear me down, and so I want to use my artwork almost like a mouthpiece for myself to speak on my behalf when I'm not in the room, and to kind of also share the stories of other Black women as well who feel like our voices aren't really heard. With my most recent artwork, the idea is to have the different statements kind of spread out, and where there is a negative space, I want people to kind of have that space to kind of reflect and to think of what they would want to fill that negative space with. I think for me, something that's always been quite important is that my work isn't just sharing stories, but also allowing people to kind of think as well. And the only thing I really want for my work to do is to be a conversation starter. For a long time, it was always just me and my thoughts and me wanting to share my story. But then I finally come to this point where I want to also share other Black women's stories as well, and to put them on a pedestal, because I know what it feels like to feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel and no one wants to listen to you. One of my other pieces that I've been working on since 2023 is this massive mountainscape. And I think what I love about mountains is how grand it is and how imposing it feels, but then also at the same time, the way we as humans can overcome the mountains in our life. And that's something that, yeah, I've kind of always thought about, just the idea of mountains being there and scaring us, but we can actually move those mountains and we can overcome. And whenever people ask me like, oh, with all the experiences you've had in life, especially when you were growing up, would you ever change any of the negative moments you've had? And I always say no, because for one, I'm someone who wants to be able to relate to other people. I want to be able to share my story and for people to feel like, yeah, this can relate to them, and I'm not just saying that from the point of not having experienced it myself. Growing up, my art shaped who I was, so I always felt like, because I didn't feel like I have a voice to speak or that no one would listen to my voice, my art kind of became my safety mechanism, and it kind of became my mouthpiece. So when it comes to me creating my artwork, when I felt like I didn't have a voice to verbally speak, my artwork spoke on my behalf. And so the more I stitched all these words, such as there is enough room for all of us, or there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish, that kind of also spoke to me on a deeper level. Even though it was my words, it still kind of spoke to me, and it kind of helped me to feel more confidence. But now, looking back at that time when my art was shaping me, I feel like now I'm shaping my art because I feel so much more confident in the way I operate as a human being, even just not just as a black woman, but just as a human being, full stop, just to exist and to feel confident in who I am and to feel confident in my skin. I think when it comes to my process, it's also just involving, like I said, connecting with other people and hearing their stories. And through my workshops, the whole idea is to allow people to use their voices to speak up as well and to give them that pedestal that I didn't really have. So one of my goals is to really work with young black girls and to run workshops for them and just to allow them the space to really just express themselves in a way that they probably aren't allowed to, especially in the education system. Because I feel like in the education system, it's so rigid, and even when it comes to an arts subject, we just so do this, get this done. There's no room for actual experimentation because you have to stick to a criteria and to meet those ticks and things like that. So the idea of my workshops is to allow other people for the first time, even maybe to just free flow and create whatever they want to create without feeling like they have to create something that's necessarily polished or fitting to a standard that's really set in place.
I can get so lost in just making as well because even yesterday when I was working in the studio, I literally left the studio at like 9:30 p.m. just because I started working on this.
When it comes to the works that aren't text-based, I feel like I can get more lost in them as well because it is mainly just repetitiveness to fill the space. And I don't really have an idea of where I want the lines, where I want to stitch each line. It kind of just happens naturally with time. When it comes to my artwork, I really want people to see a human being who's also just experimenting and trying things out in life. Because I think as an artist, you feel a lot of pressure to just, especially when it comes to the materials I use, sometimes I feel pressure to just stick with those materials. And although I love those materials and I probably will use them for a long time, I also want to feel free enough to try out different other materials and different ways of working. And for a long time, I felt this pressure to just abide by this whole idea of an artist has to have one material or one way of working to really stand out. I've just been really fascinated by materials such as wire recently, just like industrial materials. So when it comes to the sculptures, I really want to, the idea is to make like cocoon natural shapes. And then, so for example, this is a maquette that I'm making. And I'm gonna make a much bigger piece where it's kind of gonna cocoon your head, so it's gonna be over your head and it's gonna be hanging from the ceiling. And the idea is to kind of create a safe space, and then I'm gonna have some text written on the inside as well. So that when you're in that space, you're just left to meditate, like maybe like a meditation space. Something that I really want to work with more so is light as well, and shadows. So in creating these forms and having the Hessian and pulling away the Hessian and creating all these rips and tears, once you then shine a light through it and it reflects onto the wall, it's just it's almost like it's dancing in a way, like the piece feels more alive. I think when it comes to the future of the art industry, I'd love to see more black women existing at the top and really just thriving and just seeing more of us out there, just like showing off the amazing works that we can create and just sharing our stories, because that's something that I think I see happening more so now, but I think there needs to be more attention to that as well.
Anywhere you go, give it all.